of the Pit Box. My name's Jesse, and with me as always is my buddy Corey. Hey buddy, do you know why NASCAR drivers would make the worst cops?
Because if they start chasing you, all you gotta do is turn right.
On today's show, we're going to have our first ever reaction video. And what better way to start a reaction video than talk about the clash at the Coliseum that went down last weekend? And So we're going to start off with talking about some things that happened. Of course, we've got to start with those LCQs, man. The 42 Ty Dillon ruffling some feathers, buddy. He got that chrome horn blowing. What do you
Man,
think about the aggressive driving that we saw from him, but also the other drivers that we had out there?
I loved most of it. I thought it was great. It was a super entertaining heat races, LCQs, last chance qualifiers. It was a great show. Ty Dillon, a little too much, bud. I mean, you know, 8 tires
Yeah,
are
I
better
agree.
than 4, but not every freaking turn.
Yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I mean? Like that was crazy. So I mean, for new fans that might not understand why NASCAR did things this way, real quick, I'm just going to cover this for you guys. Normally, NASCAR, you might have a practice, and then you'll do individual qualifying, and then everyone makes the race. But because the track was so small, they had heat races. So first, you started with individual qualifying, figure out what heat race you were going to be in, and where you would start in those heat races. After that, the heat races will decide if you make it. I think what was it, top 6?
Top four made it from the heat races.
Top 4. So the top 4 make it from the heat race to the feature race, and then the people left do the last chance qualifier race. It's the
And then
last,
top three make it from those two LCQs.
which set the 23 car field. So the
Yep.
LCQs are obviously desperation mode, and that's what creates a Ty Dillon overdriving every turn, having no fear to move somebody out of the way, not thinking about the repercussions. You know, you're only going to Daytona in a couple weeks. No big deal.
Yeah. Not to mention the other 36 races that he'll have the rest of the season.
Yeah, I mean,
He's just writing checks. He's writing checks right there. And these guys are going to have to cash those checks at some point, and they're going to get them back. They're not going to forget. And
yeah,
it's going to
exactly.
be, I fear it's going to be the most inopportune time for him. He made a lot of enemies out there, just shoving people out of the way. And then, he's been out of the sport for a year, and the first thing he does after he comes back is drives through people and then jumps the restart, not once, but twice.
Yeah,
He makes the main event, and then gets disqualified from it for jumping the restart a second time, and it wasn't even close. I mean, yeah,
yeah,
he's
no,
probably rusty. He hasn't done it in 2 years, and even when he was in the Cup Series, he wasn't used to restarting on the front like that. So, ignorance is bliss, but he also was upset that NASCAR actually made the
no,
call,
no, no,
to do it,
no.
and it's just
Ignorance
hard.
you can't do say ignorance is bliss when you're with the cup guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No. If you're at that level, man, you by now you know how the restarts work. You know, and you're just
Should.
in the moment. You're in the LCQ. You're in the moment. Adrenaline's pumping, and you want to make the feature. So you push it too far. I think anybody could really do that. I'm not defending
Oh,
Ty
no.
Dillon per se, but
Yeah.
you know, in the moment with adrenaline, the clash. I mean, it's go time, and
Yeah.
he made a mistake, and luckily, I appreciate NASCAR stepping in and making a fair call, and uh,
And hopefully
you
they'll
know,
be consistent with that throughout the year, And if they're
yep,
not, then I think we'll have something to talk about. So, well, let's move on to the next highlight or low light for these guys. Two big names that missed out on the feature, man. Keselowski in RFK Racing, new in that 6 car, was off the entire weekend. And another guy in a new ride, Kurt Busch, in that second 23XI car, also didn't make the feature. Had something go wrong there, and Just not able to keep the car on the track. Keselowski just missed the setup, man. What'd you see with those two and the others
Hey,
that
hey,
missed?
I'm telling you, I don't know if you, I know you can't particularly see me at the moment, but my back hurts real bad. I don't know if it hurts as bad as Keselowski's and Kurt Busch, but man, they are going through some growing pains. Oh man, what I called that in a previous episode. I was like, Keselowski, man, he's a great driver, but new teams, man.
Yeah,
You
you
got a
did.
new team, new crew, new car. I mean, there's a lot happening there to try to come out of the gate swinging. And he said it, I think, in a tweet maybe that
Yeah.
that some moments are going to suck, and this was one that sucked. You traveled all the way across the country to miss the big show. So
Yeah.
unfortunate for both drivers. I think Kurt Busch going to 23XI. You saw Bubba struggle big time, so not really surprised. I mean, you can only drive what you got. Obviously, they both missed on their sets, so they'll regroup, go to Daytona, and it was just for fun. So it's a big deal to miss the Clash, but
Not as big a
it'll be
deal as messing up and doing something like that in the middle of the season when you're racing for points, though. Yeah.
exactly.
So I think they'll take it as a learning lesson, like you said, or they'll be able to move on from it and continue the growing pains. But I see a lot of success for both those guys in the season,
Yep.
so
Yeah, me too.
not overly concerned about either one of them. So, all right, well, we set the field. Kyle Busch got the pole for the heat races. He also won his heat race, so he qualified on the front row. Was looking good early in the A main there. And Tyler Reddick, man, he was strong. Tyler Reddick got out front, and then he lost the lead again to Kyle Busch, and then he got it back, and then the caution came out, and Tyler Reddick broke under caution. It
Man,
sounds like he was trying to drop the clutch and just had too many RPMs in first gear when they were doing it, and broke something in the drivetrain somewhere, and then literally at the same time, Chase Briscoe in the 14 has the same thing
yeah.
happen. We've talked about these parts, are going to be put under a microscope, with all these vendors having specialized parts and stuff. What does this tell you about what we might see the rest of the season?
Well, man, I can tell you that it's not going to be the last time we see something like this happen. These guys are learning the new sequential shifter and the new transaxle system. So, long story short, was not familiar with the mechanics of a race car. If you're going fast and you're trying to slow down, and at a certain point with your rotations per minute, you downshift, and if you do that too soon, the engine goes vroom, and your transaxle goes snap because it's too much to handle. Just to sum it up quick, so I think it's going to happen a couple times at Daytona when you're trying to wheel those cars up at 200 miles an hour.
Yeah, I'm
Someone's
not
going to,
concerned too much about Daytona. I think I read somewhere that the GM guy that was talking about Tyler Reddick's in an article for The Athletic was talking about how it's the high RPMs in first gear. So like you have the clutch pushed in, you have the car shut off, you turn the car back on, you dump the clutch, and then it revs up to 5,000 RPM because you're in first gear at a small track. So he was thinking it might be an issue more at like Martinsville or Bristol
okay,
than
all right,
somewhere at like Daytona or a bigger track where your gear ratios might be a little bit lower. So,
that makes sense.
that might be where the issues come up, but we'll see it. Justin Haley hit that inside wall and it destroyed that front tire. These parts are made out of aluminum now. Is that going to be a concern that we're going to be having to see those things, and only time's going to tell with that? So, with that, let's get to the Justin Haley incident with Kyle Larson, man. So, Justin Haley
Ooh.
gets ran into from behind and gets pushed into Kyle Larson, moves Larson up the track, and from my perspective, looked like Larson kind of didn't take too kindly to that. Maybe threw a little temper tantrum there on the front stretch, came down on Haley's nose and shipped him into the inside wall, ending his day. So, how
Yeah,
did you see that incident, Corey? Do you think it's a temper tantrum from Larson?
No, I mean, no. I think it's
Of course not.
I think it's an overreaction.
Okay,
Um, but
that's fair.
I think a quarter mile racetrack and things are happening so fast that with Larson, he sees that it's. I assume he notices in his mirror that it's Justin Haley, and he's like, "Oh, this new guy trying to give me the business." After
Yeah,
I just
yeah, and
smoked.
he also had hit him a couple times before that, I think, and
Yeah,
um,
so he was probably just running thin on his patience, and he got sent up the track, and Haley was going to have position, and Larson said no, and he used the back of his car. And the most unfortunate thing is, I feel like if it had been flipped and Haley hits the outside wall, he might keep racing, but because that
yeah.
inside wall was a freaking barrier. I mean, there was no give. That car just got the business, and it
Well,
was
and
taken out.
yeah, and like you said, it was those Jersey barriers, so they were in sections too. It's not
Yeah.
like it was a solid piece of concrete. And when he
Yep.
hit it, it looked like it kind of pushed one in, and then he hit kind of head on that other one that was kind of sitting there. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it destroyed the car, unfortunately for them, and they're gonna have to fix that. So, but I did see it as kind of a temper tantrum. Lost his cool a little bit, which is surprising. As many short tracks that Kyle Larson races on and all the stuff that he has to deal with in those dirt races and stuff to let that get under his skin so much. But I do think it has a little bit to do with Haley being a rookie, new to this cup scene as far as being up front, and those guys aren't used to seeing him up there and going to kind of make him earn his stripes, just like they did with Logano back when he was a young gun coming up there. Those veterans made his life miserable. So, and
Yeah.
And I think they're going to
100%.
do that with Justin Haley because I would expect him to be up front a lot this year.
Yeah, yeah, and just you said earn his stripes. This he's a new guy coming in, and just like if you think about Ty Dillon coming in this year, if he ends up being competitive throughout the season, that first race is gonna set the tone for him for the rest of the year. Like these drivers are like, okay, this guy races like a turd, and so we're gonna treat him as such. Whereas, Larson putting Haley in the wall is like, hey man, you're new. I don't actually know what happened. The only thing I do know of is that you used me for your breaks, and I didn't like that. So
Yeah.
Haley's going to have to stand up for himself. But what's funny is, we think about Kyle Larson winning all the time, doing all these short track races, but the man of the hour was Joey Logano.
Yeah. New track Joe, man. He wins the Bristol dirt race for the first time out there. Now here we come to the Clash, a new track that nobody's ever run on. And what's he do? He goes out there and wins. He bests Kyle Busch. Kyle got to him with like 3 laps to go and probably could have moved him. But I think Kyle Busch thought in his mind, being smart guy that he is, man, I can't move him this early. If I do, it's going to come back to bite me big time. So he tries to stay there, and then unfortunately for him, his tires kind of fade away, and that's really all she wrote. Logano got away, got the victory, man. I'm happy about that. A lot of Logano haters out there, though. So what do you say
Yep.
as one of those guys?
I, I, he's growing on me. Let me just say that. I, the Bristol Dirt Race, never. I mean, that was a crapshoot, just like this kind of was.
Yeah.
Uh, and for him to come out and get the dubs on both of those, I'm all
Putting
that
in the
earns.
work, man.
Yeah,
That's
man.
being
That
prepared, knowing what to expect. And I
yeah.
think, yeah, I think he did that.
And what's really cool about it is Kyle Busch gets the pole, ends up almost winning it. So gets pole, wins his heat race, and almost wins the Clash. The old Jolo comes in here and steals the show. And I'm sure I don't know if you saw it, but he puts on. I'll give him credit. He puts on a hell of a burnout.
Yeah.
And I'm sure while he was doing that burnout, he was doing what all the other race fans did during the race and just soaking in the moment. I mean, they had Pit Bull before the feature, and then NASCAR's like, the Clash. We'll talk. We're going to get into this just a little bit more, not too much, but the Clash is, it's a spectacle. It's entertainment. There's no points on the line. Go have fun and put on a good show. And Ice Cube's like, or NASCAR says, you know what? Let's split the feature up and throw Ice Cube in there and have a little show. What'd you think about Pitbull and Ice Cube being there? Do you think it was the right move?
I think it was a nice touch, for the people that were in the audience there, the target audience that day. Um, as somebody that watched it on TV, I could have taken it or left it. I mean, it was cool to see. I mean, it was cool to see images of those fans out there dancing and having fun and really enjoying themselves out there with a concert at halftime. Allowed some of the drivers to make a couple small adjustments or fix their car and like Ryan Blaney and get back out there.
Yeah,
Um,
speaking of that, before we keep going, how about how did we forget that Ryan Blaney? And I'm pretty sure, if I remember right, the TV misses this, and he throws his Hans device, which is a safety device that you wear on your neck that connects to your helmet to keep your neck from going too far forward in
yeah,
case you hit the wall. He chucks this at who
Eric
was it? I forget.
Jones. Eric
Eric
Jones in
Jones,
the
and
43.
then and then to top it all off, because this race is crazy and there's so much happening. He's in the infield for like a solid 20 minutes, comes back out 1 lap down.
One lap down, yeah. Unbelievable. I mean, just that's got to be the craziest thing that's ever happened in NASCAR. You
I'm
go
telling
out
you,
for
it's up
20,
there.
30 minutes and you come back and you're one lap down.
One man, that's
And
oh
okay,
man,
so while we're on the TV missed it, I'm gonna say this. The broadcast missed it. We watched it on TV. I think Fox hit a bogey on this one. They hooked it when they went for the home run here, and they missed a lot of shots. They had some questionable camera angles from the beginning. They would go away from a battle to show the leader. They had some commercials during green flag racing when it's like, "Hello, we're only it's only a
yep,
75 lap run that you have after you break up the 150 lap feature with a
yeah,
halftime
man,
show." I was disappointed in some of those decisions, disappointed with some of the camera angles. I thought the broadcast itself, the commentary was good. I loved Tony Stewart's perspective on things, kind of brought a serious tone to the broadcast, which is something that Fox has been missing
yeah.
for a long time, to be honest with you. And so I thought the broadcast, as far as the commentary, was good. Camera shots, production. I'm gonna have to give them a D.
Uh, you know, I, I agree with some of what you said, but Fox and anybody that is showing these races, and anybody that's watched racing for a long time will probably agree with me on this one. I'd like to see people respond in the comments to this particular section of our show, but they have a habit for missing action just because
Mm-hmm.
something in their data is telling them that, hey, people want to see the lead. What's happening at the front? Even though there could be a three wide battle in the back, they have a bad habit of doing that, and it is frustrating sometimes. You don't A lot of people will say a race stinked or stunk, sorry, because they didn't see it. Yeah, stinked. Yeah, I'm real. I'm a smart fella. uh, but it's because you didn't see everything happening. 10th on back or fifth on back. But all that being said, it was a huge success TV wise. 4.2 million viewers, up 170% is what they said from last year's road course clash. So
Which was on a Tuesday night on FS1. So not exactly apples to apples, but
uh,
still, that's 3.5 million watched the Phoenix race that crowned a champion. So we're still
yeah,
up, over almost a million people more watched the Clash than the championship race. So
that's a,
yeah, sorry.
oh,
I was just gonna
you're
ask
good, buddy.
you, with those numbers and everything, was the event worth it? Now, I'm not asking if it was successful because I think we can both agree that it was successful in what they wanted it to do, as far as new fans coming to the track, experiencing something that they've never experienced before, having Pitbull as a pre-concert and Ice Cube as a halftime show and all of that. But my question to you is, was it worth it? Will they get the impact long term that they are hoping for by spending multiple millions of dollars to put this on? Or is it something that, like for me, I'm going to have to wait and see if this was worth it. I think short term it absolutely was. The racing was good. The spectacle was good. The event sounded awesome from everybody on Twitter that was there, and just listening to people on YouTube talk about it and the experience that they had while they were there. But and it also set the stage for the 500 and the upcoming season. So, but if you're asking me, was it worth it long term? I can't answer that because it's hard. It's a complicated answer. In order for it to be worth it, these new fans that came out for the Clash, those 70% of new ticket buyers, they have to stick with the sport, don't they? Like, in order for it to truly be worth it, don't they have to watch some of the races on TV, besides just the 500 and maybe the two or three after it, and then fade off and change the channel, and want to buy new tickets to other racetracks, other venues? Or am I making too much of this? So
I'm gonna
that's
go with that. You're making I think you're making the Clash out to be more important than it is. I think it was absolutely worth it. LA, the LA market is obviously massive when it comes just to the amount of people that live there. I mean, there was what 50 plus thousand people there, and
yeah,
that's like a grain of rice of how many people live in that place.
right.
So the market's huge. I think it was freaking awesome. I love what NASCAR is doing. I've said this before. They're telling the country and the world that hey, we are open to whatever, anything. If you're going to go to each market of the country and be specific to that market, that's great. I mean, the Super Bowl is doing the same thing. I mean, they're going to LA and they're going to have Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, and Eminem, and a bunch of LA rappers from
Yeah,
that are. I mean, that's marketing 101. That's they people in that area love that. So I think it was absolutely successful. Now, as to your next part, as far as will they fade off? Well, if they fade off, then NASCAR needs to take a look and say, okay, what do we need to do with our actual season to keep the people here? They've added the stages, which I personally think helps. We already had that discussion.
yeah. And we'll
So
we'll
that
put a link in the description for you guys to check that discussion out if you're interested.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I mean, I think it was great success. I think the people that were new, I mean, everybody that you look on Twitter or on, any NASCAR media right now is like the fans. People are saying that even if a random car just getting past, was people were standing up screaming. So they loved that, which sets a high bar for NASCAR for the rest of the season. So I mean, you just have to relook at the rest of the year. But I think overall, my to sum up this show for me, the reaction is give it to me again. Let's go back, or let's go to another venue in the country that's similar, or that we can do something similar to give another market a chance to experience that because that was just awesome.
Yeah, and I've got a follow-up question for that, and I don't know how far you want to get into it, but you said it, NASCAR, if they fade off, they're going to have to look at their schedule in the season and see what to do. So, do you think they need to add an event like this in the middle of the year?
They
Or
have
like
one.
a points paying race? Do you think a points paying race should be at the LA Coliseum,
No,
for example?
hell no, absolutely not.
I'm
No,
glad we
that
agree on that.
yeah, no, no, that is just no. There's just so many reasons why. I mean, you can't fit all the cars on the field. You have almost no control of your own destiny. If someone wants to send you for that position, they can do it easily with no regret. There's lots of reasons why not to do
Okay.
points, but they already have the All Star race they throw in there, which is kind of a show for
At
$1 million.
Texas, let's keep
Yeah,
real. The
yeah,
worst track on the
yeah,
schedule.
but okay,
I think
I'm
if
just
we could,
talking about what the event is supposed to be. The All Star
sure.
race is
Yeah.
supposed to be a spectacle, and NASCAR, I do agree. The track selection right now is not the greatest. If you're going to change venues, do it every year, get every track the chance to put on a hell of a show. I know everybody to do it bigger in Texas. That's great, but let's move on and go to another place. Keep circulating. It's the All Star. Bring the best of the best all over the country, not just Charlotte and Texas. Like let's move on to Bristol. Let's go to the West Coast. We just proved we can go all the way to the West Coast for the Clash. Why not the All Star race?
Yeah,
So
and here's my opinion on it for the All-Star race, and I've heard some people make some interesting, I throw some interesting ideas out there. One of them is have 2 spectacle races a year. One be the Clash and the other be the All-Star race. I think if you make an All-Star race look like this, then I think it's a success. So, but we'll leave that with you guys in the comments below. We're kind of
Before I
up in the air about that. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, but before we hang up the show for this round of our first ever round of reactions, we hope you guys loved it. We had a great time doing it. But I'm always a fan of the Daytona 500. I love that we
Yes.
start out with a big show, but we like in Homestead. I loved it at Homestead; it was good. But we have to market the final race more than the Daytona 500, in my opinion. Like
Okay.
the champion is going to happen there. This is the end. Like the
Yep.
beginning, make it awesome. Let's get this show going. Racing's back, baby. Let's do this. I'm psyched. The Clash made me so happy. Everything about racing season gets me fired up. But we
Yes.
also need to send it out with a big bang. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So that's
absolutely.
how I feel about it.
And and I think a big thing is, the football season's going on, so there's a lot of other things vying for people's attention at that time of year. But yeah, you're absolutely right. They do need to do a better job of marketing that, especially on TV, and letting people know that, hey, this event is taking place. This event is happening. We are crowning a champion. Like, big deal.
3.
So yeah, 3 champions. Yeah, you're right. Between the
Yeah.
trucks, Xfinity, and Cup.
Mm.
So, well, with that, we want to hear your opinion. Give us your comments below. Was the Clash worth it? Was it a success? Do you think they should do it again next year? Do you think they should rotate the venues, go somewhere else, go to an established track, go back to a temporary track the following year, kind of do it every other? Tell us what you think down in the comments below. We appreciate you joining us here on the Pit Box, and we will see you next week. So we'll talk to y'all later. Have a good night.
Thanks, guys.